everybody, this is attorney Elizabeth Potts Weinstein, and today we're going to be talking about how to file a trademark application in the United States, in the United States Patent and Trademark Office, using their new system that just started as of recording this earlier this year in 2025. So if you're watching this video anytime 2025 and after, then this is the system that applies to you. So in this tutorial, I'm going to be actually leading you through how to do every single step in filing a trademark with the United States Patent and Trademark Office. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing is you go to the United States Patent and Trademark Office's website, you go to trademarks, apply online. Okay, so here's the thing. You have to have a login to file a trademark. And this is a login both for United States Patent and Trademark Office's website. That is easy to get. You just need a name and email address. But you also need to verify that login. And that has to be tied to an ID.me, identity verification. ID.me, if you don't have that already, what it is doing is you have to verify your identity using like a passport or some sort of ID like that to show who you are, because you can only have one ID.me account and you can only have one USPTO.gov account. To do the identity verification, I'm going to click on this to kind of just show it to you. Okay, everyone needs to verify your identity. You may have ID.me through other governments. So like if you're here in the United States, you might have it from your state government through the DMV. You might have it through the tax department, like the IRS uses ID.me. So you may already have that. But if you haven't done it yet, or you're in a different country, you're not in the United States, then you're going to need to go through that system. The short version of the explanation is it can be kind of complicated if you don't have like a passport or a real ID or something like that. If you do, it's just a hassle. You have to do a video verification. You know, you have this and here's your ID kind of right here so that they know that it's really you. But if you're outside the United States, it can be harder to make sure that you have an ID that is in their system that they will let you be verified on. But here's the thing. If you're not in the United States, you can't file your own trademark application. Why is that? It's just a rule. You have to have a lawyer file it for you. Now, you can if you can get the ID.me account, you can do the initial application, but you will be required to add a lawyer later. So it kind of is better to just do it at the beginning so you can get their advice because you're going to be paying for it along the way anyway. And this is about whether or not you reside in the United States. Even if you have formed an LLC or a corporation here, even if you're a U.S. citizen, you still, if you don't reside, physical location, boots on the ground here in the United States, you have to have a lawyer represent you. But even if you're having a lawyer represent you, it is a good idea to know how this process works because it's good to understand all the different steps. So let's assume that you actually have this. You've created your ID.me account. You've gotten your USPTO.gov account verified. Now it is time to actually file the application. And this is your base application. Now what you're going to be doing is since they have the new system, you're going to be using this, the Trademark Center. This system is so much better than the old system. It is so much easier to understand. And so you were definitely going to like it. Okay. But compared to the old system, much, much better. It calculates things as you go. It verifies what your input is. And so it's much less likely you're going to make a mistake. Now in this new system, there's a whole bunch of things that can cost more money. So you do have to be aware of that because they have raised the fees. Okay. So we're going to click on apply to register a trademark. Now, once you actually have applied, when you put in to view your docket, it'll have all your trademarks you applied for, one or however many, listed right there so you can check on their status. And then if you search the trademark database, you're obviously searching. You should have already done a search. I've done other videos on the search. Apply to register a trademark. Here's where you're going to log in. Obviously, I'm going to be doing my login. Don't use this one. Use your own login. Okay. So now you've logged in and now you go to start application. If for some reason you are not on this screen, here kind of in the mediumly high part of the screen is the start application button, and that's what you hit. So first it's going to give you some basic information about filing using the Trademark Center. So here's the thing is that once you file a trademark, your contact information is in there. So you're going to have your address, your email, those things are required. You can use a PO box for your mailing address. So that's good. But you can put a phone number in, but you have no need to. Trademark Office people never call me anymore. It has been so many years. I can't even remember the last time they called. So I wouldn't worry about putting that in. And here's the thing. If you put in your phone number, spammers are going to text you and say they're the Trademark Office, and then you have to send them money. And it's like ridiculousness. Trademark Office will never text you. They don't know how to do that. They won't call you. I haven't had anyone call me in a very long time. How they communicate with you is by email. Okay. They don't even mail things anymore. So it's almost exclusively by email. But be aware your contact information is going to be in there. So you will, and I'm not saying you might, you will get scammers who will try to message you. And if you ever get something like that and you don't know if it's real, you can always send me an email at elizabeth@elizabethpw.com, even if you're not one of my clients, and say, I watch your YouTube channel. I got this thing. Is it real? And I will be like, no. Or yes, if it is, but most of the time, 99% of the time, it's going to be no. I will provide that free of charge because it makes me crazy. Okay. So once you submit the application, there is no refunds. You can't, and most of the stuff that you submit, you can't change. You can change like your address and stuff like that, but the trademark, all that stuff cannot be changed. And all this is in the permanent record forever. Okay. So just be aware of that. So you click this box to let them know that, yes, you understand that and you agree. So now what's the first screen? So the first screen is about how much does this cost and what kind of trademark you're going to be doing. It's $350 per class. The class is the category of product or service. So you can have a bunch of sub classes under each class. So for example, let's say you sell t-shirts and hoodies and pants. Those are 3 different classes, like subclasses, but they're all under the same overall numbered class, which is the class about all kinds of, clothing, apparel things. There's also a bunch of other fees that they just started doing. Freeform text fees. So this is if you decide to make up your own class. Don't ever do that, okay? 99.9999999% of the time, you do not need that. Just find something in the database. You will save yourself a bunch of money. And it's the same thing with the excess character fee if you write this giant long thing. Yeah, don't do that. It is much more likely your trademark will get denied. And you also have to pay them hundreds of more dollars. So don't do that. It makes no sense. All right, the type of application. You're almost always going to say this first one. This is like your regular application. The bottom is like other specific things. So I rarely do these in a first application. So like certification mark and collective membership mark, these are things you might occasionally do. These are things like, let's say you create a certification where people can get their products to be certified with your certification mark because you inspect them to make sure they meet some kind of level of qualification. Collective membership is some kind of group that everyone in the group gets to use this trademark because they are certified, such and such life coaches or, something like that. And you're creating this mark for everyone in the group to use. So those have special rules. It's not horribly complicated, but doesn't apply to almost anyone. So we're just going to go with the first one and then you go continue. By the way, you can save your draft at any time and come back to it, which is really nice. Makes it very easy. Now, this is one part of my screen that is different than yours. I'm a lawyer, so it populates this with my contact information. You're not a lawyer, so it's not going to have this stuff in there for you. It's going to look a little bit different. I can't show you what yours is going to look like because I can't create a second ID.me account and I can't create an extra USPTO.gov account because you only have one per person. So, and mine's a lawyer one. So for mine here, I'm going to input my information and then I have to check this box that says I'm the attorney of record. This stuff doesn't apply to you. So you're going to be putting in your contact information, your correspondence information. Now you're going to be adding the owner. The owners is the person or entity that owns the trademark. So it's typically the business. So you could be you as a sole proprietor. So this is your name. It could be an LLC or corporation. So you put in the LLC or corporation's name. It could be a partnership. So you put in the 2 people who are business partners. Okay. So this could be many different things, but a lot of times it's either going to be an individual or an LLC or corporation. So let me show you how it would look for each of them. So let's say it's an individual. And this provide information later, fees apply, is if you don't put information that's required, then they will charge you more money if you do it later. The Trademark Office will always charge you more money if you don't do things how it's supposed to be done. Okay. So where is the citizenship for this person? And then you put in their information. I'm going to put my name, Elizabeth Potts Weinstein. Obviously put your own name, not mine. And then the owner is doing business under a different name. So here, let's say you have a DBA, then you could put the DBA. Okay, but let's just say we don't have that. We're going to uncheck that right now. Then you can put the mailing address. The mailing address can be a PO box. This is the address that's public. Okay, so we're going to put PO Box 123, and this is in the United States. This is in San Francisco, California, 94112. Don't use this. This is just one I made up. Okay. Then you have to put in the domicile. Okay. Domicile has to be a physical, real location. So if it is a individual person, it is your home address if you work from home. If it is a business where you have an office or you have a warehouse or you have some physical location, you can put that location. All right. But if you try to put a UPS store, if you try to put a Regis, if you try to put the physical address of a PO box, it ain't going to work. They look this up in the USPS database and they look this up on Google Street Maps. Okay. So they will figure it out. So don't, save yourself time. So then here you would put, 123 Main Street and then, the rest of the address, and so I'm going to put in some made up things. San Francisco, California, 94112, which is not the address that is real. And here you have to put your email address. This will be public. So just be aware of that you will be getting spam here. And that's not you might be getting spam. You will be. Okay. See this where it says it can't be the same as the attorney's email address. This will never apply to you because you're not an attorney. Okay. So I'm going to just put in another email address. Phone number. Don't put this because the thing is, the Trademark Office doesn't call you, and then you know who calls you? Spammers call you, spammers text you. You don't need that in your life. Should you add the URL to the owner's website? If you have a website, I actually recommend doing this because then when they do, the Trademark Office does a search, they'll know that when your website comes up, that's just you and it's not somebody else who has the same thing. So I recommend doing that here. So now let's go back and look at what it looks like if you do an LLC or corporation. Scroll back up to the top. All right. So now it says juristic entity. That just means a corporation, LLC, something like that. Oh, by the way, add owner. You can have more than one owner here. Okay. I'm going to X that out because I don't want to actually have more owners. So if you have partners or two different LLCs or something, you can have joint people own this. All right. So juristic entity, and let's say it's in the United States. What type of entity? So for most people, it's going to be an LLC or corporation. But if you put a different country here, so let's say you put Australia, then the entity types here, they have not just like United States ones like LLC and stuff. They have all these other ones for all that are in other countries. Sometimes you can't actually find the one that's for your country, but they have a lot of them in here now. But let's go back and put United States. Entity type, let's say it's LLC. And then you put in EPW Media LLC. Don't put in that. That's my LLC for my YouTube channel. And what state is it organized? So in my case, would put in New Mexico. And then you're doing the exact same thing. You're putting in the PO box. The domicile address has to be a physical location where the business actually exists. But now for me, for my YouTube channel, I don't have a physical location for where it exists. So here in the domicile, I would put my address, the owner's address. And at the bottom, where you put no fixed physical location, you add the name and title of that owner. So Elizabeth Potts Weinstein, president or owner, whatever your title is that you use. And then the same exact information at every other part of that screen. We're just going to keep moving through. Okay. Now, one thing you can see here is I didn't actually add everything for the owner's information because I just kind of skipped it because we were going through this the second time around. So it has a little red exclamation point. So if you forgot to enter something, you'll see that over there on the side and it won't let you get to the last screen. I'm going to actually go fix that right now because it'll make things be difficult later. Now, if you have your home address, you're fine with that being public, then what you can do is, this is not a real address, by the way. Here, the mailing address above is the same as the owner's domicile. You click that, and then it just populates it all together. All right, now I fixed that. You can see the little check mark is back there. Okay, so who will receive updates? So right now, the updates is going to go to whoever you put in as the correspondent person. Okay. So for me, for this application, it goes to me as the lawyer. You would be you as the correspondent. Would you like to send courtesy copies to anybody else? I always put in here a personal Gmail account. So that way, if my main account doesn't work or whatever, I get a CC copy of everything in another email account. That may or may not make sense for you. Maybe you only have one email account, but that's something that I do personally. All right, continue on. Okay, so this is where we're going to need to do a couple different versions of this video that I'm going to do. I'll record all here together. The first version of this video is going to be protecting a word or phrase that you don't yet use. You haven't launched the business. This is just an idea. So that's going to be the first version of this. The second version of it is going to be you are protecting a word or phrase or whatever, and you have launched the business. So you actually are doing this already, okay? The third version is going to be, what if you're not just protecting a word or phrase, you're protecting a logo, some sort of, usually it's a logo, some sort of symbol or something like that, that has a drawing to it or special fonts or whatever it is. And then we're going to go through that process. What is a trademark? And the trademark can be the words alone. It can be what the word thing looks like as a stylized, and then you can have unusual things like sounds, smells. I'm not covering that here. I've literally never done any of them. Okay. Those are very unusual. People specialize in that stuff. But just to be aware that you can trademark a whole bunch of other things: product design, packaging, sound, motion, color, sensory, other non-traditional formats. That's something I do. All right, we're here protecting the wording alone. Now, doing a trademark over the wording alone is a broader trademark and gives you more protection than if you were just going to trademark the logo or a stylized version of it. Okay. So if you only have the money for one trademark, you want to trademark the words and not just the logo. If you have money for both, then it's great to trademark both. Okay. So now we're going to continue. Did you search for the mark? As I said, you should have searched for it before we go ahead and do this. You want to make sure that someone else doesn't already have this exact same trademark, that someone has, maybe they don't have a trademark, but they have a business by the same name. They've run for 40 years. You don't want to deal with any of that. You don't waste your money. But let's assume that you have done that. All right. Now here you have to put the exact wording of the trademark. So something that's very important is when you file a trademark application and you have that word or phrase you're trademarking, what you file in your trademark application has to match how you use it exact. If you have the word and versus an ampersand, if you have spaces versus dashes versus all the words smashed together, has to match exact. Capitalization doesn't matter. Unless it is a logo. If it is just the words, the capitalization doesn't matter, but punctuation and spacing totally matter. So you just need to make sure it matches what you're going to do. So we're going to come up with a completely terrible trademark. So best coaching company ever. Okay. This is a terrible trademark, but let's just put that in to be the placeholder. Does your trademark contain any words in a language other than English? All right. This one doesn't. But let's just say if we clicked yes, what would that mean? Does any word or phrase appear in non-Latin characters? So it's like an alphabet like Chinese or something. Then you would have to put yes, and you'd have to do a transliteration. So let's say no. What is the non-English word or phrase? What is the language? Whoops. And then what is the English translation? Occasionally I'll run into a word that I'm helping client with where it actually is that word in multiple languages and it means different things in different languages. So I try to think about what makes the most sense here anyway. But here we're going to go back up to it. No. So does anyone need to provide consent? So what we're talking about here with consent is that if there is a trademark that has a name of somebody, it can be your full name, it can be your first name, it can include your last name, or it can include a stage name. Then that human person has to give permission for that. So for example, I have two trademarks. One is Elizabeth Potts Weinstein and the other is Elizabeth Off Grid. These are both for my YouTube channels. So for Elizabeth Potts Weinstein, obviously that's my name, I had to give permission for that. But for Elizabeth Off Grid, I also had to give permission for that because my name Elizabeth is in it, and the phrase Elizabeth Off Grid is kind of my YouTube name, right? So I, as the human person, have to give permission. The idea of this is that we don't want like randoms getting trademarks on other people's names that are they're human people, famous people or whatever. So you would have to, if the person has it, is it of a living individual? Then you add who the individual is. And let's just say it's their legal name. Potts Weinstein. Then is the name of the person will sign the application. Then you just sign the application and you're also giving consent at the same time. If the answer here is no, then what you have to do is you have to change this to upload something that will be giving the permission. But in his case, we'll go back and say no here. So next part is we're going to be the filing basis. So the filing basis means, why should the Trademark Office give you this trademark? It has to be because you're using it in commerce. In commerce means you are selling something, you are monetizing something, you're somehow making money off of this. Okay, so I had a bit of a technical problem with filming, but this is actually very helpful because now you're going to see what you do if you have a technical problem. So if you lose your internet or something goes wrong, or you just, get distracted and you need to come back to your application, you did not lose everything. It's actually still there. So what you do is you go to drafts and docket, you click on this, and it'll have all of the drafts that you have ever done. So here we're going to edit this best coaching ever ridiculous application. And now we're back to goods and services, which is exactly where we were. So this is about the filing basis for your application. So the filing basis of your application is, why should the Trademark Office give you this application, give you this trademark? And the reason is it's based on you using this trademark in relationship to selling a product or service. So you have to have monetized it in some way, shape, or form, but you don't have to monetize it on day one when you're filing this application. You have to just monetize it eventually before the trademark is issued. So let's say you are filing this application on a business idea that you haven't actually made yet, you haven't done any sales yet. You can file that application as intent to use. And so this is an application that you intend to use this trademark in the future. This is kind of the easiest application because you don't have to submit everything now. You do have to submit that stuff eventually, but not today. All right, so let's say we're going to do that as intent to use. So 1A is the regular application that is using it in commerce. 1B is the intent to use application, and that's what we're going to select here. Now, there are some other ones for foreign filing basis. So if you already have a trademark in like a different country, then you can use that as a basis. And then also other things that we're not going to go into here. Okay, so let's click on 1B. Okay, so now we need to identify the goods and services. So there's a database called the Trademark ID Manual, and you can search in here. And I actually recommend that you have already searched before you even get to this point, but this is where you search to find the right product or service in their database. You want to use their database because it will save you money and make it much more likely that your trademark will be granted. So I get that your thing is new or special or whatever. No, use their database. That will make your life so much better. So let's go in here and search the Trademark ID Manual. This is someone who does life coaching. So let's put in life coaching and see, you can see what comes up. Life coaching services in the field of. So this is something that is important to know, is that generally speaking, the Trademark Office in a lot of categories, especially for services, they want you to get really specific about what you're doing. So they don't just want someone doing life coaching. They want to do life coaching in the field of. So you can list a bunch of different things here that cover the kinds of things that you do in your business. So for example, let's say I do life coaching services in the field of personal development and time management. You can list a whole bunch of other things. Then you here click add. Now you can see it's over here in the goods and services, and it's going to keep a little calculator of how much money I'm spending on the application. And then down here, it'll list all the things. Let's say I also want to do something else. Let's say I want to do a podcast. Okay. Now there are different podcasts come up as different things. It can be the downloadable podcast, which is a good 009, but it could also be entertainment services, namely providing podcasts in the field of. So let's click that one. And that is in class 41 in the field of time management. Okay. Now, when I add this, you can see the cost did not go up. It's still $350. And that's because both of these are in the same numbered class, class 41. So now let's go down here and let's add something completely different. Let's add t-shirts. Now here you can see t-shirts in the class 45. It's a good product. Now, when I added this over here, you can see now the total cost is $700 because now there are two classes. So let's say you did that. Now there's going to be some additional information that sometimes are going to apply to you. So the words to disclaim, if there's any industry specific meaning, prior registrations, acquired distinctiveness, other information. You usually aren't going to need to put these things here. Occasionally, you may have a word that you want to disclaim right off. Disclaiming means you're saying this word by itself, I don't claim to have any rights over. So for example, coaching. The word coaching is just a generic term for the things that you're doing. So it would make sense to disclaim that here. They're probably going to ask you to disclaim it later. And you're kind of just saving time by doing that. But if you don't know if you should disclaim it, I just don't disclaim it. And they'll always tell you later if you need to disclaim it. Then there are words or phrases that have an industry specific meaning. So this could be something where, or geographic significance. So let's say I had a business that was San Francisco life coaching and I'm here in San Francisco. Then I would disclaim the phrase San Francisco because I obviously don't have rights over the words San Francisco. But let's say we don't have any of those things. We continue. Now here you review everything that you put in. You want to actually open that up and look at all the contact information, the trademark, the goods and services and all that, how much money it's going to be. You want to review all this stuff because once you get this filed, you can't change a lot of it. You can change your address and your contact info, but you can't change the trademark. It's in there, it's done. Then you hit continue. Then you have to sign it. So sign directly is probably what you're going to be doing because you're the one who's filing application for your own business, for your own self. This, send it to someone else to sign is, so let's say you're just typing this out and your boss is the one who's the owner of the business, then they're going to be one signing it. Let's say I'm signing it directly. Then there's a declaration here. So these are things that you are swearing under penalty of perjury. So you need to read this and understand it and agree to it. You cannot be lying about something in a trademark application because they can come back and do many things because you committed a crime of perjury, but also get rid of your trademark application because you lied on it. Okay. So just don't do that. So that you believe that you're the owner, that you're either using it in commerce or you intend to use in commerce, that this specimen is right. We'll talk about specimens later because it's not part of the application if you're doing intent to use. That you have bona fide intention, that everything that you said is, I'm going to click these as I go. Everything that you said that is that, you have the right to use this to everything that you know about it, that you've done an inquiry reasonable under the circumstances, everything is true. You understand that you are subject to imprisonment if you lie on this. So don't do that. Signature here, I always just put in EPW, but you can put in your first and last name, but you have to put in these little slash line marks. And then you put in your name, not my name, you put in your name, and then your position. So if you're doing it for your own business, you would put owner or owners or president for an LLC or something like that. So let's just put an owner here and then you hit continue. The next thing you do is you submit the payment. I'm not going to go to pay it, obviously. Okay. Because this is just showing you how the application works. But the idea is that that's it. Then you go to pay now and then you have to put in a credit card. That's fairly straightforward. So it has saved this draft up until right now. Now let's go back and change something. So first thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you what happens if you change the basis. So let's say you actually are using this in commerce, which is awesome. You've been using this for many years. Now you're going to select use in commerce. Okay. And now you're going back to goods and services. And I think they're actually still in there. So let's keep these same products and things in there and continue. And then we have to put a specimen for each class. Okay. So the classes are class 25 and 41. 25 was the t-shirt. That's the apparel class. And 41 is the life coaching and pod class. You don't have to put in a specimen for each subclass, just for each class overall. So if you did t-shirts and hoodies, you only have to put one or the other. All right. So let's add specimen. Okay. So what would this specimen be? So this specimen for the t-shirt one would be either a photograph, and I mean a real photo, not computer generated, not a marketing thing, whatever. I think it's best to literally lay the t-shirt down on the table and take a picture of it with your camera phone. Okay. Because that will be most likely be accepted because otherwise they won't come back and be like, oh no, this was computer generated. They're really hyper about that. All right. So you want to take a photo of the product in conjunction with the trademark as being, on the tag, on the label, on the packaging, whatever it happens to be. So you want the Trademark Office examiner to be able to see the connection between how you're using the trademark and the product. So they can tell what products you're selling and also how you're using the trademark. And both of those need to be involved. So for a product, usually we're taking a photo of the product itself. Sometimes you can take a screenshot of the website where the product is being sold, but do be aware that sometimes they won't believe that you're actually selling that product if the photos on that website are computer generated mock-up type photos. So it can be like, sometimes they reject that and they want a photo of the physical product. All right. And then you have to put and you upload that. The file has to be either a JPEG or a PDF. They can't do a PNG. They don't know how to do that. Don't ask me why. And then sometimes if you load a file that is too high res, it'll be too big. So you need to save it as a lower res file. But I usually upload it and see. It's 5 megabytes. So for a JPEG and 30 megabytes for PDF. I don't know why. Description of the specimen. So you usually just say something like photograph of t-shirt with mark on label. Something like that. It's very straightforward, very simple. Then the date of the first use anywhere. So this is the date, first use anywhere, first use in commerce. I usually put the same date for both of them. This is not when you started advertising selling this product. This is when you actually made a sale. Okay. Date of first sale. I wish they would just call it that. Now, for other kinds of things, it can be the date you monetized it first. So for example, if like this person also had a podcast, for the podcast, maybe they're not selling the podcast. Maybe for the podcast, they might actually be doing something like having advertising on it. Then it would be the day they first made money off the ads. And it can be any amount of money. It can be literally 1 cent. Okay. It can be one sale for 1 cent. It needs to be a real sale. You can't buy it yourself. You can't like give money to your kid to buy it. No, you can't do that. It has to be a real sale. January 1st, 2025, January 1st, 2025, obviously put the real date. If you do a screenshot, you have to put in the URL and the date you did it. So let's say, I'm just going to put in pots.com, my website. And let's say I did it today, which is 2025. Okay. And this applies to t-shirts, right? Now I didn't actually upload a file, so it won't save it here. Now for this one, let's go down here. For this one, this class 41 is about services, life coaching and podcasts. Obviously, you can't take a photo of a life coaching. That doesn't make any sense. It's a service. So for services, you're usually going to take a screenshot of the website where you sell things. Now, if you do your sales in person, you need some physical thing, okay, to send them. So this could be a flyer that you give to people. It could be an email that you send out that has both the trademark and description of the services. It could be something like some business cards have enough information. You actually can't just have a business card with like just your name on it. It has to have a little description of what you do, but it could be, life coaching services could just be listed on it, right? Life coaching or whatever. It doesn't have to be super complicated, but the idea is it has to be some kind of marketing or sales piece that has both the trademark on it, as well as enough information about what you're selling. So the trademark office knows that it's being put in the right class, that your trademark is in the right class. You would do the exact same thing here. The description of specimen would be something like flyer, services offered for sale in conjunction with mark. I usually say something like that. Flyer or screenshot of website or, whatever the thing happens to be. And then after that, you end up doing the exact same things. Now let's go back and look at the one other thing that can be different. The trademark. Let's say instead of doing words, you're actually doing some kind of logo or symbol. So here, then you would, yes, we're changing the application. Then here you would click, I want to protect what my signal trademark looks like. Okay. So like the Nike swish, the Walmart thing where it has both the word and the symbol. So this can be something that is just a stylized word. It can be a symbol plus a word, or it can be just the symbol. Then we hit continue. And now you select which one is it. Is it a stylized word? Is it just a design, or is it a combination of wording and design? Okay. We're going to click that one. And because of the one I'm going to upload. Do you want to claim color? So here's the thing. You only want to claim color if you're always 100% of the time going to use those colors. So that's always the colors that you use. And so the color is part of the trademark. For most of my clients, I would say 90% of my clients who file logos, we don't do that. We file it in black and white, and then they can use whatever colors they want. And because I like to use different colors in different situations. And in that case, that is the best idea. So that is something to be aware of, is you'll need to create a black and white version of your logo, not grayscale. They'll reject that. It has to be black and white. And then you file it without claiming color. Otherwise, you claim color. So we're going to say no. Now, when you claim color, then you have to put in the colors. Now you upload the file. So hold on, I'm going to upload a file. Okay, so here's the logo that I used a really long time ago. So very simple, but it has, I mean, it's just circles, okay, around my initials, but it does have both words or letters in this case, and then it also has some kind of graphical element, which is just a circle. But it is in black and white. And one of the things that you need to know is that if you do a trademark on a logo, it only protects that exact logo. You change anything. If I changed which font was in here, if I changed it, instead of having 2 white lines, it only had 1 white line. Any tweaks, it can be scaled bigger or smaller, but if you made it different size, if you put the words on the top or the bottom, if different trademark, you have to file a new application. Okay. So you have to be committed to a logo before you file a trademark application. Otherwise you have wasted your time. The other thing that you need to do is you have to give them more information. So first you have to do what words, letters, punctuation appear. Obviously it's EPW. It will auto select this. For something like this, it actually is very good at selecting it, but sometimes it is insane what it puts in here. So you always have to check that it did it correctly. Then you have to describe it. Typically, you're just doing a very basic explanation. So the letters, EPW, surrounded by 3 lines over a field of black. Now, you don't have to have the background. This is not necessarily the best explanation in the world. I find that they tend to redo what I say very often. This is just giving you a good idea of the kind of things. You want to make sure every bit part of this, just need translation, no. Now, do I need to consent? Yes, because EPW is in there. Living individual, yes, okay. So once you put in the logo file, then the rest of it is the same. You either select that it is a in-use application or intent to use. If it's in use, you have to have the specimen file, and then you have to have the date of first sale. And then the whole rest of the application is the same. The big thing with a logo is that it has to match how you're using it exactly. So if you upload a logo file, I mean, how you're using it can be in color, and your logo file can be black and white if you're not claiming color as part of your logo or part of your trademark. But otherwise, it has to match exact. I recently had a client where it was slightly different. Something I didn't even notice. It's a problem, okay? It has to match exactly. So once you get this all done, you pay, you submit the submit button, and then you pay the money using a credit card usually. Once that is done, then it should be after, usually they say a couple days, but usually in just a couple hours or even minutes, it's in the TSDR. So I'm going to show you how that works. After you file a trademark application, you get a serial number. You get that serial number immediately. That is a number that you can use if you're going to do Amazon brand registry or anything like that. It's the proof that you have a trademark application. And the reason it is the proof is because anybody can go here to the TSDR, put in that serial number, and pull up your application right here and look at it. It takes some hours, maybe even a couple days for your trademark to appear in the system, but it is something automatic. A human doesn't have to type it in and input it anymore, because that's why we have everything on the computer. Now, the bad news is it will take the Trademark Office now at least 6 months to get back to you on your trademark. Just be aware that it's going to take a really long time before you hear anything. And what can happen is your trademark can be approved. Sometimes the examiner will email you and ask you to tweak something. And then sometimes you'll get an office action that says something bigger that you either need to fix or a reason that they are rejecting it. And then they'll give you an opportunity to come up with arguments for why it should get approved. So again, this is attorney Elizabeth Potts Weinstein. I hope this tutorial was helpful for you getting your trademark on file. If you have any questions about filing your trademark application, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and I'll try to point you in the right direction. Thumbs up if you found this video helpful. Subscribe for more videos like this, and I will talk to you all next time. Bye-bye.